All right, it is time. Welcome. On behalf of the National Catholic Educational Association, thank you for joining us for this professional development opportunity. I am Christy Blewett, NCEA's Executive Coordinator and Facilitator for today's webinar, Building Resilience in Kids. We're going to review a few housekeeping notes as our participants finish joining. Please know that today's session will be recorded for archival purposes. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A window where all questions will be monitored, and we will do our best to answer them at the end of the presentation. Also, at the conclusion of today's session, a link to the online survey will be shared in the chat box with instructions on how to receive a certificate of completion for this webinar. And you are in for a treat today because today's webinar will be presented by the one, the only Christine Gibson. Christine has worked in the field of education for 27 years, teaching at the middle school, high school, and college levels. For the past 9 years, she has served as a Catholic school counselor for grades K through 8. Recently, our Sunday visitor published her first series of children's books focused on emotional wellness. Christine is passionate about helping children be and become everything that God has made them to be. So we will begin today in prayer. Please join me in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we come before you with grateful hearts as we gather together today to seek your wisdom and guidance as we strive to nurture resilience, grit, and tenacity in the young minds entrusted to our care. Bless our efforts as educators and counselors, that we may inspire strength and determination in our students. Grant us the grace to be patient and understanding, and to lead by example through our own faith and perseverance. May your Holy Spirit guide our discussion, filling us with insights and ideas that reflect your boundless love and support. Help us to see the potential in each child and to cultivate an environment where they can grow into resilient and steadfast individuals. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Christine, thank you so much for being with us here today. The floor is yours, or should I say the screen?
The screen is mine.
Take it away.
Thank you, Christy. That was a beautiful prayer. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you, everybody, for coming. I know it's a Tuesday in July, and you're taking time to be together, and I appreciate that. And I hope we have a good time and we learn a few things from each other. Christy was so sweet and mentioned I do have books published through our Sunday Visitor, and it's a series of books for elementary children. It's the only Catholic social emotional series that I have, anyways, that I've seen. So when you do this, when you publish books, they send you a bunch of books, and I have more books than I need. So I thought maybe we could play a game here to begin for fun. And you have to be on the honor system. You have to keep track of your own points. And then whoever has the most points, I'd like to, if you could email me, my information's at the end of the presentation, and I will send you these books. So, okay, here's our game. Now you have to be able to tally your points. Okay. So you get to give yourself right now 1 point for every time you've been called bro or bruh by a student just in this past year. 1 point. And that you may have to estimate. You may not be exactly sure. That's okay. We're on the honor system. Okay. Give yourself a point for, again, you're going to estimate here. Each time you think you heard the phrase skippity toilet. That came out this year, I think. Give yourself just 1 point if you had to look up a definition of the word Riz this year. We did. We used Urban Dictionary. You get, I don't know, 1 point if a student has ever, since you've been teaching or working in schools, complimented you on something you're wearing and then added that grandma or grandpa has one just like it. That happens to me a lot. 1 point, and you'll have to estimate here because you may have done this many times. Give yourself a point for each time you have humbly suggested to a parent that perhaps you could take away their phone for a child who doesn't know how to act in school. 1 point for each time you may have suggested that in a meeting. Um, give yourself a point if you have a special smile and a special line you might use. When you're accosted by a parent you can't recognize and don't remember in public, something that's better than "Who are you?" Maybe you have something like, "Oh, how's your family doing this summer?" Some sneaky way so they don't know that you have no idea who they are. I have that. So if you have one of those, you give yourself a point. Now we're going a little historical here. Um, if you are an educator who is a survivor of the 2016 school year, historians were calling that the trifecta year, where they invented bottle flipping, fidget spinners, and dabbing. And if you taught that year, you get 5 points for that. We think that was worth a lot. So if you would like to put in the chat there your total points, if you need a calculator, that's all right. And then I am going to send you these books. I have more than I need. My mom has all that she needs and all that she's given away to her little old lady friends. So I'm going to give them to you. And Miss Christie, I don't see the chat because I'm challenged, but perhaps if you see a big winner with a big amount of points, the highest points, we could even announce their name, Miss Christie. How do you like that?
What a great idea.
Let's see what we have.
Looks like our top contenders here.
Oh.
Lisa, coming a runner-up here, has 6 points. And it looks like our top winner is Karen with 10 points.
Karen, anybody going to beat Karen?
Oh, coming in hot. Anne has 25 points.
Oh, Anne. She was probably called bruh a lot.
Aaron coming in with a decent 8 points, as well as Mary. Wow, we got Becky with 9. What a great pull.
All right. So is Anne still our winner?
Looks like it.
All right. Anne, congratulations. Unless somebody is still, they're like, they have their calculator going and they beat you. We'll assume Anne is our winner, and thank you all for playing. So our topic today is building resilience, and all of you could have been doing something else today, but you came to this. You chose this topic. And I'd like, if you want to put in the chat, like, why did resilience speak to you as in your role as an educator? I will give you a second to type something in there if you'd like to share why that appealed to you. Has anybody shared, Miss Christie?
They are sharing. Here we go. There was tallies still coming in. We might have
more tallies. Okay.
Getting called bro a lot here.
That's a recent phenomenon. I'm still getting used to that.
Janet shared that we need to teach children that they have it.
Yeah. Yes. Janet, that's a really good point. In fact, one of the early slides here, we're going to look at the fact that everybody can be resilient. So it's not like a trait, you either have green eyes or brown eyes. We all have resilience. It's just, do we strengthen that resilience muscle or not? A good point.
Next up, Camille shared that it is a necessary skill.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm with you. Mary, students seem to struggle with problem solving or finding alternatives.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Becky, kids these days want the easy way out. They want an answer now and not have to think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not a lot of patience for a struggle or effort. Yeah.
Exactly. Adrian, I feel it is becoming more and more common for the desire of immediate gratification.
Aha. I've thought about that, Adrian. It's an interesting thing, that immediate gratification. I don't know how old everybody is, but I thought about that, how like kids, you want to watch a certain movie or just watch it today. And, if you wanted to watch The Wizard of Oz, I remember when I was a kid, you had to wait till it was sometime around Easter. So there was no immediate gratification of any kind. You had to wait for everything.
And Carrie Ann, I'm finding that every year I see more and more students who need to work on this because they have it within them for sure.
Mhm. That's well said. All right. Well, I appreciate you all sharing, and we'll go ahead and look at what some experts have said on this topic. I'm going to share. This topic is very meaningful in our school. Every year we choose a theme. And one year we chose being an overcomer as our theme. And so everything we did throughout the year as a whole school, we kind of focused on that. And so I'm going to share some things we did then, and some things that have just kind of worked out in classrooms, and some research that's been going on this topic. And hopefully we can help build resilience in all our kids. At least have a focus on it this year. I really think it does make a difference if you focus on it. And just to be clear, this webinar is not about building resilience in the face of like trauma or tragedy. So children who suffered, I'm thinking of some with unspeakable loss and difficulties. We're looking to the tips and tricks we have today are for your average kid who is kind of easily falls apart, easily devastated. Again, the lack of believing there should be any sort of struggle or effort, and where that mindset comes from and what we can do about it. So this is just building resilience in your regular kid who is pretty well cared for overall. Okay. So some really smart people over at Mayo Clinic and U.S. State Department, they share our concern about resilience. Mayo Clinic looks at resilience training as an answer to the sort of anxiety epidemic, because anxiety is, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. Things are going to go out of control, and I have no control. And resilience is, I got this. I can handle this. It might be hard, but I can handle this. I'm going to share with you some information they have. I just love it. The U.S. State Department, I had no idea they were focused on this at all. But I think it's really important that we just get in our own brains on the right side where it says it is not a trait that people have or don't have. It involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions that can be learned and developed. And I think in some ways, I think black and white, like, oh, that kid's tough and that kid's not. But I like to go back to this, that these experts at the State Department are saying everybody has it. So that gives me hope that we can help kids increase it. And I think a couple of you mentioned that in the comments, that they have it, they just don't think they do. So sort of our trick and our task here. And Mayo Clinic, again, they're looking at this as a piece of the mental health puzzle. And so many of us are looking at this epidemic of anxiety and depression and thinking, what in the world is a cure for this? And I don't think many of us would have thought that, the cure is sort of strengthening the toughness, the resilience, the grit of each kid. Sometimes we think, oh, anxiety, we need to give just a stress ball and some soft music, and it's going to calm them down. Yeah, maybe in the moment, but overall, do they have the belief that they can deal with the difficulties they might face? I love that last sentence. If you have a mental health condition, being resilient can help you cope better. So it's to everybody's advantage and everybody's benefit, from little on, to work on that attitude of I can handle it, and teaching your kids that they can. Which brings me to my favorite little piece of research, this next slide. I love this resource. If you don't use it, you might want to write it down. Childmind.org. They have a series of videos, as an aside here, that my elementary students have adored. It's on dealing with emotions. But this, I hate to read to anybody who can read, but my goodness, if I could read this 10 times to myself every day, I think, and I could get every parent to read this, it would change the way we parent. When we shield children from failure, and I love this phrase, or choreograph successes for them, we're distorting the experiences they need in order to grow. And I thought, wow, distort the experiences they need in order to grow. And you know what? We call this good parenting, right? Setting our kids up for success and trying to like orchestrate everything so that life is easy for them. And some have said that we have a generation of overparented kids or helicopter parenting. And this is sort of the result here. Not sort of, this is the result here. The next paragraph might ring really true with you. I know it did with me. A fearful family, and I think that might be the majority, is one in which parents don't trust their children's intelligence, competence, or common sense. And then this is where we come in as a school. The parents don't trust us to deliver the kind of advantages they feel are necessary for survival. They don't trust teachers or the system. They need to place a finger on the scale because they're afraid that whatever is required of the child, he or she won't measure up. They need to manipulate it. It's a searing and destructive vote of no confidence. And I can see it. I have 1,000 examples. You might too, where the mom, the dad is really trying to help. And I think, I'm sure I do this too. I really want everything to be smooth and easy for my child. But kind of like that little chick has to peck its way out of the egg, I feel like that challenge of every way that they have to grow, we have to trust them. There's that word trust in there. We have to trust their intelligence and competence to be able to get over little struggles so that they don't fall apart in the face of larger struggles. They have that confidence. A very sweet mom, as an example, invited my little girl, who's 12, to hang out with her daughter and a friend that my daughter didn't know. But she wanted to clear it with me because she said, this could be really hard. A group of 3. Do you think, I don't know. And this is what the child's personality is like. And would your daughter be okay? Would she be comfortable? And I thought about this quote. I'm like, let's say it's an awkward situation and she doesn't enjoy it. I think she can handle it, right? I have to trust her common sense, her competence. She can get out of that situation or she can figure out a way to make it work. But these are well-meaning people. And I think this is kind of news that maybe orchestrating successes, choreographing successes is making kids that are that don't have confidence. And so they don't feel like they can meet challenges. Anyways, I could think about that all day. So one thing that I like to do, and again, as a school, we kind of had a focus on this, is normalizing fear. So what I feel like we don't want and what doesn't serve kids at all is the moment they pull that I'm not comfortable doing that card, that we back down and say, oh, okay, I'm not comfortable standing up in front of the class. Okay, nobody is. And we'll get to comfort later. So this is kindergarten and first grade drawings. And this was an activity we did, and I love it. And I think you could do it with high school seniors, where you understand that fear is normal. Everybody is afraid anytime they do something new or important, right? So you start out scared, but then you're brave because you are brave. And one of you said that they have this in them. And then you get to feel proud. And that's just if we could get that ingrained in them, normalize fear. Your classmates are scared too, right? Everybody gets nervous. And so they had to draw this as a little trifold here, as you can see. And I think you could probably figure out what was happening in this child's drawing. She was scared to come to kindergarten the first day. And this is the middle picture under brave. She was brave. She did it even though she was scared. And we had a big talk about this, how you cannot be brave if you're not first scared. And even my kindergartners know that now. So that we still have these little COVID plexiglass dividers among them. So that's what's drawn there on her little desk. And then she was so proud. She's in her school uniform. You can see at the end, very proud that she succeeded that first day. We have another one here. I love this guy. And if you notice, he had tears as he went to his first basketball practice. Those were tears in his eyes. That's that blue. But then look at how he's smiling and he's shooting well. And then he's with a trophy. He's so proud. He gets that concept. And look at Julia. This was a kindergartner. She was scared because she had a speaking part in her preschool program. the year before, but she did it. And then look how proud she is. Her hands are in the air. What a great example. Okay. We also spent, now back when we had this as our theme, every Monday we would read the story of someone we called them our overcomer of the week. And we would have like just a little morning reading where we learn about somebody who had a struggle, somebody who did something hard and they overcame and they did what God wanted them to do and what they were called to do. I just made a short list here of heroes of faith. If you have one that you're thinking, oh, she should totally have this, go ahead and add it in the chats, and then maybe I can add it for the future. By the way, if you have not seen the Cabrini movie that came out this year, it's a super great example, like really huge example of resilience and faith and what resilience and strength you get with deep faith. And so highly recommend it for a classroom movie. We did a big focus on reading books that showed it's normal to struggle. It's normal to have hardships in life. And then what you do with those hardships is kind of your gift to God. So I'm just going to go through a few of these. And again, if you would like to add in the chat some books that you think, oh, I know a book that teaches about grit and resilience and overcoming, I'll tell you a little bit about these. But as I'm doing that, if you'd like to add, maybe Christy could share those with us in a second. So A Boy and a Jaguar is a beautiful book. It's a true story of a man named Alan Rabinowitz, he's passed away, the foremost leader in big cat conservation. And he did that through legislation. The thing that fascinates children is he was a huge stutterer as a child. In fact, he didn't even kind of got kicked out of regular school because he stuttered so. That is a great, great overcomer story. He effected such huge change while dealing with such a huge challenge. I think most of us are familiar with A Long Walk to Water, things that we take for granted, right? Other people have to overcome and persevere. The Who Was series, I think I've read almost all of them with my own kids or with students in the classroom. And there's not a single one that would not be considered an overcomer. I mean, I put Helen Keller, you got any of them, Milton Bradley to Dr. Seuss. They've all had, it wouldn't be much of a story if they didn't have struggles to overcome, right? If you have never read When Stars Are Scattered, it is the most beautiful graphic novel and moving graphic novel I've ever read. I've never seen anything like it. It's a story of brothers in a refugee camp and how their life unfolded. And it is the most moving. It's great for struggling readers. And you'll be left with an impression of, wow, the resilience of the human spirit. It'd be a great classroom read, too. Going over to Alan Gratz, who wrote Refugee. He wrote a lot of books, historical fiction. And the main characters, again, resilience personified. All the Alan Gratz historical novels. After the Fall is about Humpty Dumpty. He fell. And then what happened? Well, sometimes we fall and sometimes we struggle. And then what happens? The I Am book is like a junior version of the Who Was books. So they're for a little younger reader. And of course, we have Jackie Robinson, a great overcomer. And Emmanuel's Dream. It's a beautiful picture book. It's a true story of a boy named Emmanuel who did not have a functioning right leg, and he rode his bike to raise awareness about people with disabilities. He rode his bike all the way across his country to raise awareness and acceptance. So I can't see the chat. Christy, are there any books over there have people shared that we need to make note of about overcomers, about resilience?
Thank you for asking. We don't have any yet, but if they do, I'm happy to keep you updated.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so the books, right, can seem somewhat removed. A refugee that they'll never meet, or Jackie Robinson that is gone. I do like to pull in the kids like the relevance from popular culture. like this last Super Bowl. I mean, we had a quarterback who who had been called Mr. Irrelevant. And if you're like me, you don't know anything about football, but you care about kids, it's a great story. He was the last draft pick, which is embarrassing, and they give you a jersey, which is super embarrassing, that says Mr. Irrelevant on it because you don't matter. Nobody wanted you. And then he ends up being the quarterback in the Super Bowl. So it's a huge overcomer story, a huge story of resilience and not caring what other people think of you, but knowing what gifts you have inside. A lot of kids don't know Michael Jordan's story. 15-year-old high school athlete doesn't even make the team. Right. And we have a lot of kids who are talented and hopeful and they don't make the team. Right. And it's easy to get down on yourself. Now, the Dr. Seuss story, you may know, when it's Dr. Seuss's birthday, we always talk about how he was an overcomer and so resilient and tough and gritty, because who could get rejected 27 times and then think somebody's going to publish this book? It was kind of a fun activity. When I shared this with the kids, we said no 27 times in a row just to see, what does that sound like? What does that feel like to be told no 27 times? And I think that was a meaningful memory for them, right? Because nobody is going to tell us today that he was not talented and doesn't have great stories to share with the world. Movies. So we can watch like the silly movies when you have movie day in class, and that's great and that's wonderful. But kids enjoy just as much the movies that really have a great message. And I think all of these, the 4 that I have here, are they're clean, and they're just the embodiment of resilience. If you've not seen these, I recommend them. But I'd love to know, again, if you want to add movies or books that you think teach that struggle is normal, we overcome, we're resilient, we have it in us. I'd love to hear more. Bible verses to build resilience. I have a big list. These were the top 3. We do all kinds of things with them. We make book card or bookmarks out of them, and then the kids have that. So every time you open up your chapter book you're reading, it tells you, I'm able to do all things through him who gives me strength. Or it's up in the classroom. But just a constant reminder that I love that one here. God does not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and of self-discipline. So just encouragement that God has things for you to do, right? And God has gifts that you're supposed to use. And out of fear or fear of rejection or failing a couple times, you don't do that anymore, or you don't try. That's not who we are. We are strong people. And okay, we were just talking about this in a meeting a little bit ago. Every Friday, we would do a drawing of our tough cookie. And so if you were a teacher and you had a kid who was out sick with the flu, and then he came back, got all his work done, and was working really hard to keep up and catch up, and just being really tough about it, you could give that kiddo a tough cookie award, and it would go in our drawing for the week. And we'd say, oh goodness, Tommy Smith is our tough cookie of the week. And they would come up and they would get themselves a bag of Famous Amos cookies. I just have a message, Miss Christie, that she thinks the chat is disabled. Is that possible? And this participant was going to recommend the Wonder movie and book. Wow, yes. An overcomer. Resilient, tenacious. Yeah. So tenacious, overcomer, unstoppable, gritty, hardworking. You all are welcome to print those out and give out your own tough cookie awards. Kids love the cookies. Oh, and at the end of the year, we get, you do your awards day, and you have straight A's, and you have honor roll, and you have top student in math and all this. We actually, that year, we had one of those big cookie cakes that said tough cookie on it. And it was a boy who had broken his arm like so horribly, I can't even think about it. And he didn't miss like a day of school. He didn't miss an assignment. He was writing with his left hand. And we all just sort of hats off, you had a struggle, you had a setback, and it did not stop you. So he got the cookie cake. Steal that idea if you want to. This is a slide you might want to use. You could use it at a variety of levels. younger kids, older kids, rephrase as needed. But man, a lot of this we don't think about too much. We just think like, oh, math is hard for me. But share a time you showed resilience and grit. Okay, I got a score I didn't like, and I got some extra help, and I'm doing better now. Everybody should be able to share a time they showed resilience and grit, because that shows everybody has struggled and everybody overcomes and does better. Those questions worked well. If you'd like to use them. Oh, there's some more. I repeated when stars are scattered. These are, again, if you're language arts, history, whatever, you could use these for your literature questions. Just, again, to keep that focus on we struggle and then we adapt and we overcome. Because there's not a story in the world that doesn't have a main character who struggled and overcame, right? Okay, so this book, it's called Just Kidding. If you've never used Trudy Ludwig, I recommend this author wholeheartedly. She did write that book, My Secret Bully. A lot of good social, emotional lessons in her books. And in this one, this fella here on the left is giving the other one a hard time. And you can see on his face, he's really sad. And when he ran home from school, really upset because this boy teased him in a mean way, his dad said, okay, we're going to not be destroyed by somebody saying something mean to us. And so they practiced that, right? And the way you respond to somebody being mean, you have to show some toughness and some grit and some resilience. And that means we're not devastated because somebody wasn't kind. And I use this in my classes. So I'm a guidance counselor, and I teach every elementary class every week. And I teach middle school classes too. So what I explain to them is, if I could make every child in this building kind, and they never say anything to you that hurts your feelings, offends you, or is teasing to you, that would be great. I can't do that. But B, even if I could, you would go to your baseball team, your neighborhood, your pool, wherever you go, your own family, and somebody's going to say something to you that's not very nice. And so the question is, are we going to be destroyed by it, or are we going to be resilient and say, you know what, that wasn't very nice, and this is how I'm going to respond? And so the dad in this book said the way you respond is you can make a joke, or you can show that you don't care. And that's what I tell the students. So we practice this. And you can't get mean back. So here's a story I tell my students. And this is one I told my own children at home at dinner. A friend of mine said she went to have lunch with her child at school. This is all true. She went to have lunch with her child at school. And in that school, that your child could ask a friend to come meet with him and his mom. And so her son did that. He invited a boy to come sit with him. And the little boy didn't really completely open his lunchbox. He was just sort of taking things out of it and eating a little bit. And she says, what's going on? Long story short, the little boy had been teased for his lunch because at some point, somebody said it looked like throw up. His mother made homemade Indian food. So it's delicious. It's the envy of the lunchroom, if you know what Indian food is. But somebody said it looked like throw up. And so his goal, or his answer to that, was he was so devastated that this is like well into the year, well after that happened, he's hiding his lunch and eating very little. So his answer to that was to starve, right, and be embarrassed because somebody said something mean. And I heard that story and I was like, oh, I tell you what, that darn kid, he needs to be put. Who would say such a thing to a child? And then I realized I would. Because I did. Because in first grade, I had never seen egg salad. I had never heard of egg salad. My mother did not make egg salad. But I sat next to Denise Rubacava. And she, in first grade, had an egg salad sandwich. And you know what I told her? It was really gross. And nobody should eat that. And on and on and on. Well, Denise Rubacava did not have the answer of, I'm devastated, I'm embarrassed, I'm never going to eat again. She was pretty resilient when I think back. She chased me around the playground and said, egg salad hands. And every day she would just seek me out. I couldn't tease her anymore. She would seek me out and say she was going to get me with her egg salad hands. And we laughed and laughed and carried on. So I thought, wow, resilient, right? A silly, simple example, but kids can get really devastated and feel they're bullied if somebody says something unkind or hurtful. And sometimes things are. So I told my own children this, and so we spent the time after dinner like insulting each other, and then responding in a way that was funny and not hurtful in return. So if someone says your food looks like throw up, you can't say your face looks like throw up. No, that breaks the rules. So we practice in the classroom and in my own family. How do you respond? How do you show resilience in the face of some meanness? And kids did really great. I use that example in class, and kids say, "Oh yeah, it does look like throw up. That's my favorite. Don't you want some?" And then it diffuses the situation. Child's not devastated. Child can eat his lunch and carry on. Share these stories. I recommend you share these stories with your students and let them know, you know what? People said things to me that wasn't very nice, and this would have been a good way for me to handle it. This would have shown resilience. If you all are familiar, well, of course you are. You're adults. You know what saddle shoes are. I usually have to explain this to children. And I pull up on the smartboard a picture of saddle shoes. And I say, when I was in 5th grade, I went to this shoe store and I found the most adorable pair of saddle shoes. And they were so cute. And usually a kid in the class will point out they kind of look like bowling shoes. And I said, aha, they do. So I wore my new saddle shoes out on the playground, and I was really cool and feeling great. And then a boy, I'm not even sure who it was, I think it was Gary Bozell, he said, "Why are you wearing bowling shoes?" I had very little resilience. Nobody had practiced this with me. So I went home. I told my mom, I can't wear these anymore. We didn't have tons of shoes. So she said, well, those are your school shoes, so I guess you're going to wear them. But I was just so mortified. So the students and I come up with what would have been a good answer to that. And they come up with marvelous answers that are just fun and keep the child from being devastated and show some resilience. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm on the bowling team. Didn't you know? Why are you on the bowling team? Or please don't tell I stole these from the bowling alley. So they kind of get a kick out of that. And we have a good time practicing resilient answers to tough situations. So anyways, it's just an idea you might want to try. I love this phrase. I did not come up with it, but a parent from our school was the first person I heard to say this: get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Going back to the beginning when the US State Department explained, resilience is not something that you have or don't have. And it's not like having curly hair. It's something we all can grow in. And I think that's an important phrase with that in mind. Everybody's uncomfortable standing up, giving their book report, right? Everybody's uncomfortable trying out for the basketball team. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm thinking, I had put that up in my classroom. Everything you are uncomfortable doing today is something you're more comfortable doing tomorrow. And the sooner they realize that, the better for everybody, right? Because again, anxiety is that belief that I can't do this, I can't handle it. It's out. I can't. But if I'm comfortable with feeling scared, I'm comfortable feeling nervous, I'm comfortable, and I know that eventually I'll get to the brave and proud. It's a good way to look at life. Oh my gosh, that's me. Okay. If you wouldn't mind to share your stories, we could allow people to talk, or you could put it in the chat, of where you feel like you helped kids and you have something you've done in your classroom or in your work as an educator that you think has helped with grit and teaching children to be overcomers and resilient. When I did this live in Pittsburgh at the NCEA conference, people have great examples. The first one I'm thinking of was a preschool teacher who said, they bring in their little share item. We used to call it show and tell. And kids forget, or parents forget, people forget, and they don't have their item. And just her little way of trying to teach children that, okay, it's a little bit of a problem that you have, but we can overcome it. And she doesn't allow moms and dads to rush home and bring the item. She says, we're going to teach them that we forget things, we make mistakes, and it's okay. So she said the kid is always kind of like, oh, okay. She said it's okay, and I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it next time. And that it's the parent. She says from preschool on, she's trying to work with the parent to be like, you know what, I don't have to make this perfect for my kid. It's okay. We kind of had to do that with dress up days, right? Like it's Hawaiian Day, whatever. And my kid doesn't have a Hawaiian shirt, and it's just devastating. And now we have to go out and buy one. And he said, no, you don't. Nobody said you had to buy one. Your kid can be like, oh, I didn't have that shirt today. It's okay. Right. So we kind of did a lot of that when we really focused on resilience. I think that's important. They don't have to have everything perfect every time and have everything. So I'm hoping I'll hear from who is my big winner, Anne, with 25 points, unless somebody beat her, so I can have your address and send you books. And Christy, is there anything in the chat we should share?
Thank you for asking. I have to give a shout out coming in later. Anne had the top score of 25, but honorable mention to Beth, who came in with an impressive score of 35.
Oh, geez, Beth. Okay, well, you know what? Well, if Beth and Ann want to email me, I'm sending books out tomorrow.
Good both. Gosh, that's generous. Thank
Oh,
you.
I don't need them.
We did have some books come in here. Just like you mentioned, I Am Malala, Esperanza Rising.
Oh, is that a good book? I have not read that, but I've seen it. Esperanza Rising, yes.
Also, Small Steps, The Year I Had Polio, as well as the book and is it a book or and a movie, The Boys in the Boat.
Oh, yes, that movie just came out this winter, I think. The
Mm,
Boys in the Boat. Another good overcomer story.
Indeed. And it's possible, I think we have some hands raised. I'm not sure if maybe they could put their questions in the Q&A box. That's where we are chatting, team. Feel free to share any questions you have before we wrap up here for the
Is
amazing
there a
Chris.
way? Oh, you're so sweet. Is there a way for that to be like their audio enabled if they wanted to talk?
See if we can make that happen.
I'd love to hear some voices.
Fabulous. Looks like we have three. I'm happy to allow Sister Eileen Burns to talk if she had a question. Here we go. Sister, you are welcome to join us. Talking has been enabled for you if you'd like to ask a question.
Sorry, I hit it by mistake.
Understandable, happens to all of us. We have another hand raised from Joseph, forgive me, Monachino. If you would like to speak, I'm happy to give you permission to speak and ask a question. And while we're waiting here, I'll just share permissions with Sharon Johnson. If you have a question as well, permissions are granted if you would like to ask a question.
Are you speaking, Sharon? I
Oh,
can't
I
hear.
was trying to find the chat, the survey, because I couldn't find it I didn't see it in my chat.
Gotcha. The survey link is coming here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
And it'll be posted in the chat here. And feel free if you do have some questions to put them in the Q&A. We'd be happy to address them right here.
Or suggestions. Maybe you've done something in your school or in your classroom that you think, hey, this is really what kids need to be, this is what we need to be doing to get kids more resilient. We share and learn from each other. Oh, what happened to Joseph? I saw his hand. Now I don't see it. Where'd he go? Joseph Montalcino. He has his hand up, but it looks like his volume or his talk is off.
Indeed, he does. Looks like he has permission granted to speak, but perhaps he's typing in the.
Okay. All right. Well, it's
Getting some feedback here. Excellent. Thank you for the resources for teaching. You mentioned Heroes of Faith weekly announcement. Do you have a resource of a list of biographies to get this started?
Oh, that's a great question, Susan. That's a great idea. If I were super organized, I probably would. But I could, you know what? Let me make a list, and then I think this is going to be like archived, right? Is there any way, Christy, that I could like put a list with the presentation, or I could add it to it, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Show notes, whatever you prefer. Happy to do both.
And John was mentioning Hoosiers and Remember the Titans. Oh man, yeah, that's good stuff. Hoosiers, one of my very favorites. Streams, Carrie Ann said, streams to the river, river to the sea. I encourage students. Oh, look at Mary. Stick their neck out and answer questions, even if unsure of being correct. That's brilliant. Nobody's ever talked about that before. Sometimes we applaud each other. Gradually, we have better class discussions. Oh, that's great. That's a great one. Yeah, you don't have to know. You could be wrong. It's all right. Right? You could take a risk. Small steps the year I had polio. Thank you for mentioning that. I had never heard of that. I am Malala. I'm going to look that one up. Sharon Johnson is adding like an entitled attitude is pervasive. And I agree. I think that sort of the ease of living, right? When, I don't know. I guess I feel like sometimes our kids have it really, really good, like in a lot of ways, right? Kind of pampered, and that kind of goes back to that statement from childmind.org that like parents have orchestrated and choreographed things to be really great for their kids. One parent told me like she was quote curating a lifestyle for her child. I don't think my mother ever felt like she was curating anything for us. Anyways, so yeah, so it kind of leads to a feeling of there's a struggle, and I'm not that I don't have struggles in my life. So I see what you're saying there. They kind of go hand in hand, right? Okay. Wow. Scared of being wrong. Boy, Mary Coker, that's a good one. Very important to let them know it's okay to be wrong. That's how we learn. Yeah, and that's maybe part of resilience is building that safe, secure feeling in your classroom where people can make mistakes and try things and not do great and not get an A+, and it's all right. Suggestions for how to work with parents on support is, oh man, that's it, right? Hosting parent coffees around specific topics or back to school night talk. I like that. Yeah, we were just talking this morning about every week for our current theme, which is going to be the light, sending out, you know how you can send out all these like blasts, like to texts, parents, whatever. I would recommend if a teacher wanted to do this, like every week have us maybe share with the parents. This is the overcomer story we're talking about this week. You know, it's Helen Keller or it's Dr. Seuss or whoever it is. And we kind of get that in their minds that, you know, struggle is normal. We have to normalize struggle. We have to normalize difficulties. We have to normalize imperfection. And I feel like that's it. And doing things like that preschool teacher said, like, no, you're not going to run home and get the book report, or you're not going to run home and bring back the show and tell item. Child's going to be okay. We're tough here. We're tough cookies. I think you kind of need a buy-in on that. For teachers in general to do that. I lead our drama program, said Eileen Lombardi, using any type of readers theater or public speaking opportunities to help students to be uncomfortable and learn how to manage a common fear of speaking in public. Look at that last sentence she wrote. The satisfaction from the accomplishment is empowering and can transform students' lives. Just that, knowing that I was afraid to do it and I did it anyways, and now I'm okay at it. I can do it. That's great. Eileen, I don't know if it's true, but I heard somewhere that people have a greater fear of speaking in public than they do of dying. Is that true? That's somewhere. Again, it's that anxiety that we're going to look foolish. Well, you know what? We all look foolish sometimes. That's all right. Maybe I looked foolish today. I don't know. All right. Well, Miss Christie, we had such good input here from these wonderful participants. I thank everybody. And I'm going to try and make that list of overcomers to add to the presentation for the sweet person who asked for that.
Christine, thank you for sharing what such powerful research to support and cultivate resilience in our classrooms and our schools, and gosh, even in our adult lives. Thank you. And impactful resources, the collaboration here today. Thank you for giving of your time and your talent to build us up.
Thank you, Christy. And thank you, everybody.
And bonus, we all use our resilient egg salad hands. Right?
Isn't that terrible? I was such a rotten kid making fun of that poor kid.
Lesson learned, being resilient.
Yeah, she was tough. You all take care.
Thank you, Christine. And to our participants, before you go, thank you for attending our Summer 2024 webinar series. We continuously strive to improve the quality of our services for our members based on your feedback. So please help us make an even bigger difference by using the link in the chat to complete the very brief survey. And if you're interested in a certificate of attendance, please include your email address and name at the end of the survey. All certificates are sent via automated email. So check your spam folder if you do not see an email within a few minutes. On behalf of NCEA, thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Thank you to Christine for being here and being the light in our day today, leading us forward. Goodbye, everyone, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.